You know, they say every bully needs an enemy, and Fox News' Bill O'Reilly's current straw man is none other than NBC News. On his show last night, O'Reilly attacked NBC and a war correspondent in Iraq, from the safety of his cushy Fox News Washington, D.C. studio. Watch this.
What Richard Engel and Brian Williams did not report last night is that violence has dropped about 80% in Baghdad since the surge, according to the Army. Mr. Engel is a brave man, but has consistently taken an anti-war position in general. That's not what correspondents are supposed to do.
And I'll tell you what people like Bill O'Reilly are not supposed to do: skew the facts. Talk about the spin zone. With me now to talk about it, MSNBC political analyst and columnist for the Congressional Quarterly, Craig Crawford, and White House correspondent for the New Republic, Ryan Lizza. You know, Craig, what's so disturbing about this Bill O'Reilly thing, attacking a war correspondent in a war zone while you're sitting in a cushy studio in Washington, D.C., is the fact that he didn't even get his facts right. You talk about spinning. Richard Engel actually quoted that same 80% number that Bill O'Reilly was talking about. In fact, the White House sent it out in a blast fax earlier that day. What's Bill O'Reilly trying to do here?
Well, he cherry picks what he wants to make the case that he's been making for some time because NBC's his new whipping post. CBS just fell apart on after his attacks and Fox's attacks, going all the way back to Dan Rather's demise. So I mean, now they got to pick on somebody else, I suppose. Everything this guy does is always centered on hating somebody. I mean, rallying his troops against somebody, and NBC's just his latest one for doing that. But I've been watching Brian Williams reports all week from over there on the nightly news, and I really have been learning a lot about, on the positive side, about what is happening with these new tactics and this new plan. And that's one of the only places I've been learning that. They've been very balanced in those reports.
We're going to talk about that in the next segment, Craig, because Brian Williams' reports have been eye-opening to me, not because they've been negative, but because he's talked to the troops. Right. And Brian Williams has said the troops believe in what they're doing. He's talked to the Iraqi people. He said they're all saying America has to stay. I have not heard conservative, this isn't conservative reporting, but I haven't heard reporting that conservatives would like as much as Brian Williams reports. So if that's the case, Ryan, what's going on here with Bill O'Reilly? Isn't this really about Keith Olbermann?
Oh, it's obviously about that. I don't want to get in between the two networks here, but it's obviously about that spat. And look, going after O'Reilly is a certain fish in a barrel element to this. The guy's never been a very intellectually honest talk show host. But look, Engel's doing what reporters do. He's telling you what the government is saying on that 80% figure, and then he's going out into the field and to the best of his ability trying to discover what it's like on the ground, and presenting both of those facts. O'Reilly has decided that the Army's figure is gospel, and from a studio in New York is deciding to attack a guy that's putting his life on the line in Baghdad. It's pretty gross.
O'Reilly is a classic provocateur. I mean, that's why I see O'Reilly as he's not a journalist. Right. He's a provocateur.
Right. And look, there's a certain quality, just like with Ann Coulter and some of these comments. And at a certain point, it's how seriously should you take these people? There's a certain element in what they're doing is that they like to provoke a reaction from folks. And sometimes it's worth reacting sometimes, and sometimes I feel like it's not so worth it.
And I guess, Craig, that's the question we need to ask right now. Is it not worth reacting? As Ryan said, this is somewhat gross, yes. But is it not worth reacting to when Bill O'Reilly goes after a war correspondent like Richard Engel, who puts his life on the line every single day, is there and reporting back to the American people? Well, listen, I loved having this guy on my show. I supported this war for several years, and I always found his reports straight down the middle. We can't go over there. Isn't it great to have somebody like Richard Engel there? And isn't it, as Ryan said, sort of gross that Bill O'Reilly's attacking him in the war zone.
I think it's critical to respond, Joe. It's just like in politics, you know, you can't let those negative charges hang out there. I wrote this book you've been generous about promoting in the past, Attack the Messenger, and one of the things I looked at is how in the early days when networks like CBS were under attack, they just didn't say a word, and that in the long run didn't help. Media doesn't like to be put in that position. We don't like having to get in the middle of the fight like that. We're a great target, really, because you know we tend to objectively report all the accusations against us and then say, yeah, right. We really do suck, you know. But we really do need to defend ourselves when the defense is worth making.
I was going to say, not this time. We're not the ones, in your words, Craig, who suck.